continue, please.
We've had some meetings lately that have been rather long. Sometimes important matters don't come up until maybe 10:30 at night. Talking with the public, some seem to be dissatisfied that they feel like their problems haven't been adequately addressed by the time the meeting is over. What can the school board do to promote openness between the administration and the public? Starting with Mr. Doyle.
Well, obviously we haven't done enough, because there does seem to be a dissatisfaction that we need to work harder at trying to solve by increased communication. I know that Mrs. Meck and members of the cabinet have spent a great deal of time working on individual cases on an individual basis, trying to iron out problems. And I think it's the proper role of the school board in this instance to encourage that sort of communication. By the time a problem reaches the school board, there's usually a number of steps in between that had been missed that probably would have been effective had the person with the complaint known about these, had he felt these were available to him. And I think the school has to communicate those possibilities.
I think a good way to meet that is, in some ways, something I found very gratifying that I participated in 1996, a citizens review committee that I found to be really enlightening, and one of the reasons I'm here tonight. It's sort of like an old-fashioned New England town meeting. I think there may be needs on occasion for the school board to meet with the public to hear and answer questions, independent of business of the committee, of the board itself. I think there's something enlightening and enthusiastic about it, and sometimes something a little risky about being able to be there with a group of people and simply be there for the purpose of answering questions, of explaining policies or procedures. I agree. I've been to a number of meetings, both board meetings and other meetings. It's very difficult sometimes for the citizens to find the opportunity in a very difficult agenda with a number of complex issues to get their concerns expressed. And you may need just to find a time to do that, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year, but certainly trying to cram that into a school board meeting is difficult.
Thank you.
Dan?
My other question, we'll start with Mr. Doyle and then Mr. Childs. Do you feel the district's athletic programs are adequately funded?
Yes, I believe we have a very ambitious athletic program. I think we've made a great investment in keeping a top-notch athletic program with the addition of the playing fields that we had the bond issue. Part of the bond issue anyway was to create those playing fields. Part of the creation of the idea behind the creation of the foundation was to see that the private funding of the athletic department would add extra money and funds for their needs. We have a very wide and broad-based athletic program of which we're very proud.
And Mr. Childs?
I have to say I'm a bit biased in terms of my response to this question, since I have two sons who've participated in Easton athletics. I think we have, as Mr. Doyle said, I think we have an excellent program under excellent supervision, and I think the funding certainly is adequate. We cannot expect a district to meet all needs of all athletes at all the times, and I think there where the slack has been taken up, and I think effectively so, is with an enthusiastic organization of parents and friends who have helped by raising the extra funds to help make that experience a very positive one for the young men and women who participate in athletics. But I have to say, having lived other places, I'm very impressed with the quality of the leadership, the quality of the coaching, and the quality of the facilities and the opportunities that our students have.
This is a question for both, starting with Mr. Doyle. Mr. Doyle, I believe you said before the district has known for several years about the overcrowding situation in several of the schools. But why did the district wait until just recently to hire a contractor to install the modular classrooms, which is apparently going to force the installation of the classrooms until, I believe it's October at the earliest? And what is the district going to do to alleviate a potential chaotic situation trying to assimilate the children from those schools into the modular classrooms at the beginning of a school year?
Well, In the first place, we have been planning this for the last 5 years. The high school addition was supposed to meet these problems in a large measure by creating upwards to 625 seats in the elementary schools. Now, if anything has happened, the student population has grown a little bit faster than we originally anticipated. We did anticipate the use of modulars. I don't believe we anticipated the use of 24 modulars 5 years ago, but we did consider that we would have to use some modulars back then. So we have actively been planning for this sort of thing. Of course, anyone that's been to the high school during the addition knows that the students have had to bear with quite a bit there. Cafeteria wasn't put in, the library wasn't put in, administrative offices weren't put in, but somehow they bore up with it. And they're going to have an excellent high school starting next September. I think the middle school students will do as well a job.
Thank you, Mr. Child.
Yeah, again, the Facilities Review Committee that I served on 5 years ago attempted to try, with the best information we had at the time, to predict what the growth would be. And it's a very difficult thing to do, given the influx into the district. It seems to be a very popular place for people to come and live, as well as the number of children people choose to have. I mean, there are a set of variables that are very difficult to deal with. As Mr. Doyle said, we did anticipate needing modulars at that time. We certainly didn't anticipate the number that we needed. But in terms of planning for it, I think the school district is taking some appropriate steps to help children acclimate themselves to the modular classrooms. They're I think, not to be thought of as just boxes. I think they're better outfitted than that if you've had a chance to see what they look like. And I know they're going to take children through and let them have a chance to see what they're like. Their parents will have an opportunity to preview them. You minimize chaos by planning for it and by orienting people to the way that the traffic is going to flow and how they'll be used. And I think they can do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Childs first, and then Mr. Doyle. What efforts would you undertake to improve or change after-school programs?
After-school programs, I'm not sure. What kinds of things are you thinking about?
Whatever you have in mind.
I didn't know whether you're referring to athletics again or...
Not necessarily academic programs after
okay.
school. Do you feel those sorts of programs are sufficient or are in place? Are there things you'd like to see in the schools after class?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that we're doing now, and I think there's more that we can do to help children, again, make the transition between high school and college, between high school and the world of work. I think opportunities to learn additional skills, to use skills they're learning in the high school through using computers, through designing various kinds of software projects. I think there are a number of things that the school can be used to help in that particular way by involving kids. I think one of the big things you have to do with children, whether it's athletics or after school activities, is keep them active, keep them involved. It's a way of showing that you care about them and what they are and what they're going to become. And I think there are important things that we need to look at and continue to see that we're providing appropriate after-school activities, broad-based for children and to meet their needs.
And Mr. Vaughn.
Well, once again, I think Mr. Childs has pretty well covered it. We do have quite a number of after-school programs and activities, whether they're co-curricular, extracurricular, sports, athletics, a wide variety of clubs. Whether we should add a few more or subtract a few, I'm not really prepared to answer at this point in time.
All right, and that is it. We've come to the end of our program. I thank our questioners from the Morning Call and the Express Times, Tom Davis and Dan Sheehan, respectively, and from the Eastern Area League of Women Voters, Barbara Bauer and Pam Kissler. And to the candidates, we thank you very much, and also thank you for staying within those time constraints. I know it can be difficult sometimes. Now our series shifts over to the other end of the valley, and we'll be hearing from the candidates for Allentown City Council in just a few moments. And we thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. For Lehigh Valley PBS, I'm Homer Wentz. Goodbye.
Lehigh Valley PBS has presented Lehigh Valley Primary Campaign 1999 in cooperation with the League of Women Voters of Allentown, Bethlehem, and Easton, Pennsylvania.